So I kind of think we're already live. I'm not sure.
I've not got YouTube open, so I couldn't tell you.
I can tell you right now, yes, we are live. Right. So this is good. Now,
Progress.
we have decided to call an emergency meeting, me and Marco. Had a little conversation today. Jamie is, I don't know, I think he's on a secret mission for the government or the army or something.
I heard
Because
he'd gone on holiday with your mum. I think that's where he is.
what to that swimmers camp where your mum goes?
Yeah, very good.
No, he is. I don't know where he is. I think he's working, probably with Elon Musk building a new spaceship or something that he designed. So yeah, I don't know where he is, but he will be back next week. As it stands, um, I I've been proved right as usual. I've predicted the future in a way whereby I knew it was going to happen, and it has begun. Electricians are losing their qualifications. They're being revoked. They're not losing them, they're being revoked. Well, a more accurate way of describing it is they are not really. Wow, what's a more accurate way of describing it? They're not being revoked. What they're being is made worthless.
Yeah,
Would
so
that be correct?
this some of our quals expire through other metrics, if you like, especially with MCS, where you have to do your solar course every 5 years.
Yeah.
And because they've changed the enrollment requirements for a lot of these level 3 courses now to include the MBQ3 or equivalent, there is some older electricians who can't enroll on those courses to keep their other bits and pieces up to date. And there's been a conversation kick off on Twitter the last few days from some of those older electricians where they tend to reside. And yeah, they're having trouble getting on these courses. And to be fair to you, you play this dumb fool character so well, it's almost impossible to believe you can be smart. But you were very smart on that podcast we did. It was a few months ago now, wasn't it? Where you pretty much said it wouldn't stop with just new people to industry. They would find a way to implement this
So
on
for
some
me,
of
it's
us.
not just about that. I've been sort of following this across the board. It's not just in our industry. It's across all of the different sectors in construction. And what they're saying is, and it's been coming down the line for 10 years. If you haven't got an MVQ, you aren't qualified to do anything on site. So forget your city and guilds. That's almost meaningless now. You can have so before the city and guilds, like the 2330, which was what I done when I did it, that was the one. And then it was a 234 and the 235, I think it was. That were the ones afterwards. And if you had either one of those, that's a real juice. That was a real juice. But you still needed the MVQ. So the MVQ was like this thing that you rush to throw away, boom, get it in, and then you got your gold card. Because if you done your, well, you had to do your AM2 as well, but I kind of saw the AM2 as more the college thing. The MVQ is providing a portfolio of your work. Now, what's happened is over the years, the industry's been messed about so much in terms of what's a qualified electrician, what ain't a qualified electrician. Um, and but the MVQ's always been about, but it hasn't always necessarily been required to get your gold card. Now, everyone for the longest time has said that the gold card isn't the isn't that important, isn't that great. And I've always said it's the only way that you can be universally accepted on any site as an electrician. It's the only way. You can walk on any site in the country. If you've got a gold card, you'll be accepted as an electrician. You'll be paid as an electrician. A lot of places out there, even if you are the best, most knowledgeable spark in the world and you don't have your MVQ, a lot of places won't pay you as an electrician. They'll pay you as an improver, which means you'll get 30 to 70 quid a day less than an electrician. And but then sometimes you'll get the right company and they'll bring you on as an electrician. So for a long time, people have sort of muddled their way through without MVQs. Certainly some of the older boys, because they would have done it in a time where MVQs were just coming in, stuff like that, where they didn't have to have an MVQ to get there. That there was two ways back in the day. One, you could have done your MVQ, done your AM2, and done your 2330 or whatever the equivalent of that part of the qualification is, and you could get a letter from your employer to say, listen, he's up to scratch. He don't need to do this. We're signing him off. And then the JIB would accept that letter and you would be there for, forever after, qualified as an electrician. That was never going to last. And in the last 10 years, I've seen it slipping and slipping more and more. And now we're at the point where a lot of the companies, these newer companies, MCS, people like that, they're just saying, no, we want you to have an MVQ. And it doesn't matter the fact that you've been doing it 40 years, done it at every level. You probably worked on some of the most important projects in the UK, but now you're no longer qualified as an electrician to some organisations. And I have been saying this, and I'm telling you now, it will not be long before the JIB stop issuing gold cards to people, regardless of whether they've had their grandfather rights or anything like that. It will not be long before people issue, well, before the JIB stop issuing these gold cards. Now, I know Andy Reeks pretty well. He's now the head of the JIB. He's not allowed to come on this podcast, right? He's not allowed. But I will reach out to him and see what the deal is with it all. But
I think that'd be an epic episode if you got Andy on here, because I know him as well.
he's a great guy.
Good guy. He knows his stuff. And you're right about the JIB aspect. Having the gold card is here nor there. Having the quals to get one is what's always been the safety net. If you had those quals, you're always going to be able to find a way in the industry, and no one's going to sidestep you out at any point. The problem we've got is kind of double-edged here. One is there's a lot of people who came in through short course training over the last 10, 15 years. And then there's the older electricians who came in way before MVQs and even the AM2 system as it is now, who have got legitimate qualifications and have kept them up to date. There's this one guy on Twitter, he's got his Part C, Parts 1 and 2. He's done AM1 and AM2, every version of the regs up to today. He's done his EV course, original solar course. He's done everything. And he's just gone to enroll to try and redo this solar course. But because it's got a specific point in there about having to have the MVQ3 and his prior qualifications don't satisfy that, he's been told he's got to do an experienced worker assessment or like the 2357, whatever it is, and RPL over his quals against that to be able to enroll on this course. So kind of you're right in saying that the JIB or equivalent aren't going to turn around and say your grandfather rights don't count, but they are going to say if you don't have these other up-to-date quals, you can't have it anymore. And you can't get those up-to-date quals without doing the MVQ.
No.
And the cost around that isn't small. Like
No, it's not.
Quite a lot of money, isn't it? You know, you're well over $1,000 to go and do that. And I know there's training providers and assessors who are absolutely loving this because there's a huge volume of people to now pump through that training.
There are, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna, because I think it should be said. There are companies out there. There used to be one called Quick Step, and they will issue you a fully done MVQ. Costs about 1,500 to £2,000. It's done and dusted. You sign the bottom of it, send it back, and you get your MVQ in about a week. That is one way of getting it. So if you're stuck in this position, and I don't condone this, right? I don't condone doing this. But if you're one of these old boys that are stuck and you're fretting about it, there are ways around it. I don't condone it. I don't think you should do it. But I also don't think those old boys who put their time in, like what? So all of a sudden, because a fundamental misunderstanding of the qualification route to be an electrician is now being fucking misunderstood by some Twitter, these organisations, that geezer's 40 years of experience counts for fuck all of a sudden. I find it such a liberty because we're not talking about a qualification to, I don't know, go and ride in a boat or something. I'm talking about qualification that's someone's livelihood. So a qualification that means everything. This is what we get up for. We go to work to be electricians every day. We take great pride in the fact that we're electricians. We went through the hardship of doing our our apprenticeship. We went through the hardships of getting all of our knowledge. It took me 20 years to become okay at being an electrician, and that's through trying hard, doing a podcast week in, week out, really trying to understand the industry. And we've all done this in our own ways. Someone like you, you've done loads of social media, you've started up successful businesses, you've put in the time. And what if you didn't have an MVQ, you wouldn't be considered an electrician? Look at Save. I think Savo's got the MVQ now, but he didn't for the longest time. And look at Bundy. He hasn't got an MVQ.
Two quality electricians as well who know exactly what they're doing in the areas they work.
Yeah. Well, and then now, because someone who has a fundamental misunderstanding of the qualifications for an electrician is going to turn around and say you're not qualified enough to do our course, even though there's people out there that have done it their whole lives. They're passionate about the industry. They make YouTube videos. They not and forget the YouTubers and people that do content. Think about the people that are out there just grafting. They're out there just grafting. They're immersing themselves in it. They're doing their NIC assessments every year. They're putting themselves through the ringer with that. They're learning all their regs. They're regularly updating their 18th, 17th, 18th, and 19th when it comes out, doing their amendments, doing retaking their 2391 to learn testing properly and stuff like that. You've got people been doing this 20 years, joining the what's the other one? The IET to look more formal and up their skill set, doing CPD all the time. People listen to this show because they're immersed in the world of electricians, and they are no longer qualified as electricians because someone said so.
It's mad, isn't it? When you think of it like that. And the one guy on Twitter, he's in the solar industry from right at the start. He's been in it 20 odd years. And he's really worried now about his business because this is what he does. And he can't do his solar qualification to sustain his MCS, which means he can't trade. So he's really concerned about how that looks for him. And I'm going to try and help him and have a conversation about that because it's just mad. It's mad. I know what they're trying to do. I think they've understood. They've let too many people into the industry too quickly without the right qualifications. And they're trying to pass that cost of that mistake onto all of us.
I
So
don't
make us
necessarily agree
all
with
do
this.
this. Make us all do this training, rather than just saying, you know what, we didn't hold that gate quite right, and we've let too many people in as kitchen fitters who should never have got through into our industry to work as electricians.
I don't know if I agree with this, right? I think I've met a lot of electricians in my time. I've met a lot of electricians who never went and got their MVQ, just decided to do what they're doing as they are. I've met people who've done the short courses and haven't got a clue. But I don't think the short courses in the industry is necessarily what's fucking the industry.
No, it's a part
I
of it. It's not the
I don't
sole
know.
reason.
I'm not convinced it's as big a part as like this whole terminology, boil in a bag spark, which is what they're called in the London circuit. I don't necessarily think that that is the problem. I think it's more to do with the fact that a lot of electricians didn't do an apprenticeship.
Mm. That is another part of it,
And
definitely.
then you go and do your qualifications, you go and work with someone for a year or so, and you know just enough to go out by yourself, and you go out by yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's more of that problem. Um, and maybe not finishing all their qualifications because they know enough to go and earn some money doing house bashing. Whereas,
You make another
yeah,
good
I'm not
point.
convinced about boiling the bag
No,
sparks. What I think
you
it,
make another good point. You are right. There is a big issue with people going through full-time training because they couldn't get jobs as apprentices. They're not really given the right work experience to qualify, and we just fudge it. Generally, in your own garage, putting a bit of tray on the wall to get through, and then you go and do site work, and you haven't really fully finished all of your qualifications. Definitely part of the issue in the domestic world, and you maybe don't see this as much, Sam,
you know,
as we have because it is like that. There is a lot of people who did retrain in really short time frames, 5 weeks or so, and they kind of flooded that sector as domestic electricians. And we see the fruits of a lot of that labour. But I don't think that affects the commercial industrial world quite so much.
Do you also think there's an issue here where the term electrician has been so vague for so long?
Oh, for sure.
This is why we are where we are now. Because I remember when I first started this podcast, what is an electrician? Like what defines electrician? If you say a gold card, you have 50 people in the chat going, mate, you're gold card mafia. You think you're better than everyone because you got a gold card. No, it's not that. But when you think of it from a very logical point of view, we don't have a definition of what a gold card. Sorry, we don't have a definition of what makes you a qualified electrician. So on one hand, this whole thing insisting on an MVQ is an answer to this question, right? But it's come at a time and in a way that isn't fair to those who put in their time. So now it's a case of, but before I get onto that bit, I do think that we've gone such a long time without defining what electrician means, even in a legalese state, right? No one really has defined what an electrician is at all. My definition was if you have if you have a gold card or the qualifications to be able to attain a gold card, universally on any site in the UK, you're respected as a gold card electrician. That is now what they're pushing out there. It's a mad one, really. I've been saying it for a long time. And because I've been hearing it in other industries where they're now like you've got people who've been doing plastering or chipping for the longest time, and if they haven't got an MVQ, they can't get the relevant skills card, and they're only allowed to pick up a broom on some sites. Some sites, like certain Kia sites, certain Skanska sites, if their health and safety guy does the inductions, is checking your card, and he's on the case with it, he will say, you haven't got a skills card. I don't want to see you touching anything other than a broom. And I've seen it. I sat in inductions, and people been like, I've been a chippy for 20 years. I just ain't done the MVQ." He goes, "Well, I ain't the one you're meant to be telling. Off you go, bruv."
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing, isn't it? Definitely more than just in our industry that they want to see these bits of paper, and they're trying to capture some of the people who would definitely benefit from doing some training. You know, the kind of people who maybe haven't kept up to date, haven't finished their quals. There's maybe elements there who'll get the benefit, but they're also capturing a lot of the wrong people, like the people you described earlier, Sam, who are really trying their very best to do the best they can, stay as up to date and current as they can, do good work, just get on with the jobs. And now they've been told they've got to pay more money to do more training. So I think they need to look at where they're setting that line. And it does all kind of sit behind what this EAS specification is, that all the industries kind of got together as what you need to be a qualified supervisor in a CPS scheme, essentially. And the qualification standards as well of what actually means you can be an electrician. It's not defined in law, but it's kind of the qualification standard to be one. And it does all sit behind what the gold card qualifications are. And I've had the same thing said to me before: you're just a gold card fanboy or the gold card mafia, whatever you want to call it. We only say those things to try and best advise other people that if you reach that standard, you have the quals to get the card. Don't get it if you don't want it. Have the quals to get it. You'll always be able to work, and nobody can take that away from you
You're always,
retrospectively.
yeah, you're always going to be considered an electrician. And this is all I've ever said is like, I don't give a fuck about, no, me personally, I do judge people if they haven't got it, right? If you come on site and you ain't got it and you say, well, I'm an electrician, I just think, no, you ain't, right? Because you ain't. Because you ain't getting paid the same as me and we ain't doing the same work. Like, it's just a fact. Now, if I wanted to put my money on the table as to what I think an electrician qualification should be, I don't give a shit about the MVQ because it's rubbish. I think it should be an AM2. I think it should be a 2330 or equivalent. So that is your theory and your coursework. And I honestly believe you're not an electrician and until you can test your work. So I think you should have a testing qualification, and that should get you your gold card. Now that rules me out. Okay, I haven't got a testing qualification. I've been doing a lot of testing lately to try and get my chops up with it. But what I'm saying is, I personally think that's what makes an electrician. Forget your MVQ. That means absolutely nothing. That is a government ordered thing, I think. A lot of things now, I think that is a. If I'm right, I remember there was a big thing where the government was putting out funding because they want more people with MVQs. And this is like 15 years ago. And I think that's a government thing that's trickled down now. And if you ask anyone in the industry, they're not going to argue with my definition of of electrical qualifications and what they should be. You're just not. So you got to have your regs, your AM2, your theory, and a testing qualification in the field. If you haven't got those four things, you shouldn't be an electrician. That is what I think you should get as an electrician. But as it stands, it's MVQ, the regs, like 17th or 18th. Well, it's the 18th edition now. So you got your MVQ, your 18th edition, your your theory, so your classroom work over 4 years, which is your 2330 and an AM2. If you haven't got that, you just aren't an electrician, and that is the way it's going to be, and it's going to get harder and harder to move around in this industry without that MVQ. It's only going to get harder. These job sites are going to start cracking down. So if you think you're just going to go and earn 200 quid a day working on agencies and stuff like that, they'll crack down on that. You ain't going to get no work if you ain't got a gold card. You're going to get work, but you ain't going to get paid like an electrician if you ain't got a gold card. And you ain't getting a gold card unless you've got an MVQ. And if you're, I would say in the next 2 or 3 years, unless Andy Reeks listens to this podcast and agrees with me, I can see in the next 3 years the JRB saying that we will not issue gold cards to people without MVQ. You've got 3 years to get your MVQ, otherwise you'll lose your gold card status. I can see that coming.
Yeah, I mean, but in a sort of off the radar way, it's happening because you won't be able to update your regs
Yeah,
without the NVQ.
yeah,
And you can't get your gold card without an up to date regs at the next time you're assessed for it. So, that will come by default anyway at some stage.
yeah.
And, I agree with the NVQ. I actually did it to see what it was like a few years ago now. And, it's not the hardest thing in the
No.
world to do. And I had the exact same experience while I was doing it. I had offers over email from the company I was doing it through to have the portfolio produced. And you're just like, what's the point of that when they're encouraging you to go off into your garage or do it, or there's offers from the assessor's wife to produce your portfolio for you and pay money for that. I know it's the system being abused rather than the system itself, but these things happen. And yeah, for me, that's just not a way to assess competence. I think if there's people out there who've been in industry for a while and you've done your kind of NIC assessment where they come out every year and look at you, there's an argument there that can be an equivalent of an MVQ if you've had a few years of that. I'm thinking of like Nick Bundy and Davo, for example. They've had the NIC out visiting them. They've done their regs. They've done the 2391. They've done loads of practical work.
Well, can't their
Is there really
YouTube
any
channel count?
upside to them going to do an MVQ? Absolutely not. There isn't.
Well, they've got an MVQ on YouTube.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Like you look at the body of work by someone like Savo and Bundy,
100%.
you can't argue with that. You
He did it
really
while he was
can't.
drunk as well. So I mean, if he can do it when he's drunk, what can he do when he's sober?
Such a retard, and he old Savo. But yeah, I think so. Ollie asks, how about those that have their 2391 but no MVQ? You like, let's just have this straight. The MVQ is a separate qualification. It sits outside your theory, it sits outside your testing, it sits outside the AM2. The MVQ is a separate qualification that you must have for these courses now. You must have your MVQ. It's probably the most important qualification for for someone in the electrical industry to have now. if you want to be classed as an electrician, universally, you have to have your NVQ. It's only going to get harder if you don't have it. And that is in domestic all the way through to industrial.
Yeah, and the MVQ aspect is covered in your apprenticeship. So if you've done a proper apprenticeship, you will have done it through that as part of your work experience when you're out with your employer. It's people who've been through routes like you mentioned earlier, Sam, your 2330, where you do your MVQ alongside that through work experience or as an agency worker, however you're approaching it. That's kind of where you evidence some of your installation work alongside an assessor to cover that aspect off. So if was it Ollie, if he's been through and done his NVQ alongside an apprenticeship, he's probably done it already. If he hasn't, then he's looking to do a solar course or an EV course or a battery storage course. Part of your enrollment on that will ask for the NVQ3 or equivalent. There are some things historically which will satisfy bits of it, but they're getting less and less and less as these older guys are finding out. You know, one of them's done it's called Part C. Back in the day, it was in 2 parts. He's done
That's
all of
right.
that. He's done all of that. He's done an AM1. AM1 doesn't even exist anymore. So he's done
The
that. He's
part
done an
wasn't the
AM2.
part C your technical qualification that you done
Oh,
after you got all your qualies.
a way
So the
harder one than we have these days.
yeah.
Way harder.
So you made a good point. Sorry, but one effort before anything else, a bit of enthusiasm, one day, every day for leading this session. You made a good point about other courses are going to start requiring an MVQ before you do them. I think you're right. I think if you want to get your 19th edition, for instance, you're going to have to have an MVQ to do that. If you're going to, what if they start doing it for ECS tests? What if they start doing it for, what if the NIC just start saying, right, you've got to start having your MVQ, otherwise you're not an electrician. There's a good chance, and that's kind of happening with the NIC already.
It is for the
So there's a,
QS. If you want to be a QS,
yeah,
then you kind of
you
need it.
have to
And
have it.
they will help their members with some funded support go through it. So it's not necessarily going to cost you all of the money if you're a NIC contractor and you haven't got your MVQ. So they are trying to help a little bit, but it's just it's the time, isn't it? It's not just the cost of the course. This is something I keep trying to get over to people. You've got to put so much time in out of work and your own
Yeah,
free time. It's like a lot.
I still don't remember how I even done mine. Anyway, I just think it's going to be very, very difficult to get by. Um, and a lot of people will think this is another, oh, gold card rules and all that. I don't, listen, please don't message me or leave a comment saying, oh, you just want everyone to have a gold card, or you think you're. I've worked in the industry for 50 years, and I didn't have to have a gold card. I know that. I know it's possible. Okay, I'm not saying it's not possible, and I know there's good ones. Whatever, right? I don't. I seriously don't care. What I'm saying to you is, your journey as an electrician in this industry is going to get harder, is going to get harder at an exponential rate in the next couple of years if you do not have your NVQ. It's that simple. Mark my warning now. If you don't have an NVQ, your journey in the industry is going to get exponentially more difficult, because if you have to upgrade your qualifications at any point over the next couple of years, they are going to start asking you to prove that you're competent to take these qualifications, and they're going to ask for an MVQ. I promise you this is going to happen. If you don't, it's already starting to happen on the periphery, on the in like the sections of the industry that are adjacent to sparking, like the solar, like the EV and stuff like that. Like Mark just said, they're already asking for it. Unless someone comes out and dictates that actually we're going to revoke that, and that's not going to happen because there's too much money involved, you're going to need it now.
How do you see that playing out though, Sam? Because there'll be people in that position where they've got a choice at the minute of doing their experience work route or the 2357 and RPL over and paying that, or just saying, you know what, I'm going to do something else. I'm not going to do it. Then the training sector loses all that funding that they happily collect for regs courses, EV courses, PV batteries. A lot of money in there with people going to sit this stuff. And all of a sudden, that captive market has been shrunk because people don't have those MVQs. And if they don't go and obtain them, how does that play out? Do you think the majority of people will do it, or do you think they'll sack it off and go work in their
I think
supermarket
if you've got a business that you've been building for 20 years, I think you've got no other choice but to do it.
I
If you're like
agree.
my age and you've got a business that you've been building 20 years, you're 45, you've still got 15, 20 years left on your mortgage, and you're not going to be able to go and do something else and earn the same amount of money. You're just not, right? You're just not going to be able to 2P it over to, I don't know, doing sales and earning 4, 5, 6 grand a month. You're just not going to do it. It's not possible. Okay. It's possible for a very few people, but on the whole, it won't be possible to do that. So what do? You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to find ways. If I would, and I know this is a very unpopular opinion, and I'll get a lot of grief for it, but if I was doing it, I would just pull a stroke and I'd go and get one of them ones already done. I would. I would get one of them ones already done and I'd sling that in. If I've got all the experience, I'm a good spark, I've done all my diligence, I just never got that. I don't business. I'll do that. But but because I don't actually know what the MVQ shows. Because if it was something that was produced and you was and it was produced with honor and integrity and all that stuff that goes with it, right? And everyone produced it at the same standards with the same honesty around it and the same integrity around it, then it would count for something. But because everyone does it as quickly as they can and pull in a stroke, go and take a picture next to a fuse board they ain't done, whatever, everyone done shit like that doing their MVQ. Do you know what I mean? Walk onto a site, take a picture next to a bit of conduit. It's rife. So it actually doesn't count for anything. Because if it's not an honest reflection of your work, it don't count for nothing. And who's an honest reflection of your work too? Some assessor who's got 10,000 of them ahead of him he don't really give a shit. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a completely pointless thing. The MVQ is a government thing that was bought. The implication of MVQs, was it some Tony Blair thing or something like that? That he started bringing out MVQs and wanted everyone to have an MVQ because it showed some sort of bollocks. Anyway, it was some sort of bollocks that was brought down by Labour One years ago, and this is why we're in this position now. Because like the whole industry was told that any apprentice needs to have an MVQ. It's like a blanket thing. I remember it. I can't say for 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that is the bullshit that's come down from the idiots above. And now it's coming, like now it's gone all the way down, and now it's starting to eke out. Oh, has it got an MVQ? Oh yeah, we run the solar course. If you haven't got an MVQ, you can't do it. What about if I've been doing it for 30 years? Sorry, it says MVQ only. What can you do? You can't do anything because if it says MVQ on this fucking bit of paper, that's all they're gonna fucking read. Because actually, they probably don't want to be doing their shit job, taking calls about fucking doing solar courses. They sit there and go, if you ain't got an MVQ, you can't do it. End of story. All right, that's it.
Going back to what you're saying about the MVQ, is YTS was a big thing when I first came into education. I think people of our age went onto YTSs, then they got rid of that, and that's when the MVQ started coming in. I think it was a Labour policy, and it has just kind of grown and grown and grown. And there will be people who put their heart and souls into their MVQs and do really good ones, and assessors who help them with that, I'm sure. But we all see what goes on, as you've just described, and when the gatekeeping around it is so poor and some of the assessors so unethical, the value isn't there, is it?
No, there's no value in it.
No, it's just not, and that's the reality of it. And it's almost like industry marking their own homework to a good degree. So we've had this problem build up. Let's introduce a way of fixing it where we get paid for it as well, by the way. And everything will be fine. We saw it with CPD after the Hackett report when everyone went mad for everyone doing hours of CPD and recording that everywhere. Is that shifting the dial on people's capability and what work gets done? No, it isn't. It isn't.
Do you remember when they said that? Oh yeah, if you've got a light bulb and you read the instructions, that's CPD. It's like fuck off.
Yeah, CPD used to be going and doing something like a regs course or your 2391 or a EV course. Now it's reading a magazine or something along those lines. That's just not CPD. It never was. And it's the drive for volume of it that we've all been given now. We have to do so many hours of it every year that it's just driven to this place it should never have ended up. But that's a separate story, I suppose. But it does all trace back to this box ticking around a level of qualification the industry is expecting us to have. And at least I suppose now it is all aligned behind the same things. As you said earlier on, in the past, you'd have had the CPSs saying, well, this is what we want as an electrician. Come and do your 5-day course with us. The IET would be saying something else. This is what we want. The ECA, something else, and so forth. And people really didn't know what to pitch at and what to aim towards. Now there is at least that. The problem we've got is then the way they're applying that to older people. They're capturing the wrong people, aren't they? These are good people who want to do good work and have been made to do training they don't need to do. They're not going to get any value from it. That shouldn't be a thing. And those guys who have been chatting about this on Twitter, there's like 5 or 6 of them. They're really worried about it.
They should be.
Yeah, and they're not happy. And that's the thing. They're not sure where do we go, what do we do, how do we raise an issue with that? How can we get our voices
Nowhere. You
heard
can't go
around that?
nowhere.
And that's the thing. I said to him, come on the podcast and talk with us because that's about the best you've got. It really is. Coming and chatting on your show about these things is the only real platform that's out there to be heard from coalface electricians that might result in some action. That's it.
That's it. That's it. There is nowhere else. There's no oversight. There's no governing body. The closest thing to a governing body we've got is probably the Search Shore Mafia. It's probably it. Like NIC, fucking JIB, people like that. And do you know what? For the most part, a lot of people hate on the JIB, right? But the stuff they do there
It's
is
like 6
only.
people there as well. There's not a lot of
Yeah,
people.
no. It and I think that Andy Riggs and his team do an incredible job. And this ain't me kissing their ass to get them on because I've been told directly that they're not allowed to come on.
Smart
Right?
people.
Yeah, they're not allowed to come on, right? Because of my union ties from back fucking 10 years ago. But whatever, right? Who gives a fuck?
What
If
were you,
they
the Tommy Robinson of the electrical industry or something? Was that you in the past?
essentially, I am probably thought of something like that. That's why I started wearing Stone Island, just walking around, just fucking. But to be like, it is something like that. Honestly, mate. Um, for those who don't know, many years ago, I started up a union for electricians. In the face of Unite, and I did it because Unite were just fucking dumb, and I thought I could do it better. And guess what? I did do it better, and I created a union for electricians, completely from scratch, sitting on a wall outside a job in somewhere like near. I can't even remember now. I remember sitting on the wall, making the first inquiries and getting the ball rolling. I did it with Ricky and the Bearded Spark, and we set it up, and it was fairly successful. I was fairly successful in terms of I recovered over nearly £100,000 in unpaid wages, um, completely for free. Never took a dime for it, and that really, really, and I mean fucking catastrophically upset Unite. Now, if you guys don't know, Unite are when it comes to when it comes to the JOB, they represent the electricians at the JOB, and then the companies are represented by the who is it?
ECA. ECA.
The ECA. They are represented by the ECA. So on one side of the table you have the ECA, the other side of the table you have Unite, um, and then this is all housed. So the negotiations are facilitated by the JIB. So they make sure the legal framework is intact. They produce the document that is agreed upon by both sides at the end, and they hold everything that was agreed upon to account for both sides. So I really upset to a mega standard the Unite to the point where I had death threats from members of Unite. I had people trying to turn up at my house. I all kinds of stuff. It was absolutely mental. But because of that, Unite will not allow the JIB to talk to me, and that is the case.
Absolutely mad. I mean, you can imagine you upsetting people. You're pretty good
Oh,
at it, but
massive,
that degree, you must have ruffled a few feathers, mate. And I don't
mate.
think people really understand exactly what you did back then. You were in the papers and all sorts, weren't you? There was a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You guys helped people. You actually helped people. And for all the stupid stuff that gets chucked your way and people refusing to come on this podcast from the likes of the JIB, that can't be understated. I mean, the consumer unit thing outdoors, you shoot pen faults at that. You called this. You can't keep playing this dumb fool on the internet all the time because it ain't washing anymore, mate. It ain't washing.
Well, it's not. I'm not necessarily dumb. I'm getting much better. But I do have to say that I think interacting with people like yourself, Jamie, even Jamie, Savo, and that, and doing the podcast for so many years, I have picked up a hell of a lot of knowledge that I wouldn't have picked up on site because of the sort of work I've been doing, and really understanding different parts of the industry is like on the job I'm on now. I'm for some fucking reason they're like quite well thought of in terms of like they think, oh, he knows his stuff, and it's like, oh, I don't. I think I know stuff. I might be wrong, but like it turns out I know some shit. Apparently, I know some shit, so it's all right. Yeah, what it is, I'm usually surrounded by people like yourself, like Jamie, who know way more than me. So it means that I'm probably not the most knowledgeable in the room. Might be the smartest, but not the most knowledgeable.
Yeah, definitely the best looking, I would say, you'd think as well. But
Yeah.
the
My mum says so all the time. Fat and handsome.
the technical side, you may be right with Jamie and stuff, but I think around how the industry works, there is very few people who know how this industry works better than you do through the
Yeah,
experience you've had. I mean, like the fundamental process of how all of these things come about, how the CPSs work, how the JIB, the ECA works, how actual site contracting works, agency labours, getting jobs, hustling day to day, doing your quals. I don't think there's anyone who knows more about all that shit than you do, mate.
it's funny. What I would say is I'm probably one of the best people to be able, probably one of the best at articulating what it is, articulating the industry. I'm probably one of the best in the industry at articulating what the industry is about. That's where I say my power is. I wouldn't say it's anything more than that. I wouldn't say I was like some soothsayer or anything. But when it comes to articulating certain aspects of the industry, it'd be quite hard for people to have more knowledge than me and to be better than me because I do it every week.
Mm,
Well, I
yeah,
try to.
I think that's fair. And you know, if we were going to have a discussion with industry about all of this and somebody to represent electricians, you've done it as your union leader. You know, you wouldn't find a better person than you to put that case forward and have some
But
of these things discussed. And if they won't do it on the podcast with you, maybe there's a room in private where you can get some of these things sorted out, mate. Because a lot of it does need those sensible conversations to happen before we are driving people out of our industry who are good at the jobs they do through the courses they've been made to sit. You know, it is going to make some people think, especially if you're in your 50s, you just think, oh, you know what? I probably just retire and I've had enough. I'm not going to do another course again. And we're going to lose that last 10 years of them maybe showing the next person how to do that job, taking their businesses on, maybe. I think it's a massive shame.
I think you're not wrong. We are very close to that stage. I think like having a electrical summit, do you know what I mean? Where everyone just puts everything aside and gets around the table and, really tries to come up with positive direction for the industry. Because it kind of just sort of flops around the industry, doesn't it? It sort of flops in a direction and then will flop in that direction, and then someone will jump up over here and go, "Yeah, do this," and then it sort of flop in that direction. There's no there's no definitive direction for the industry. There's no definitive guidance for anyone. it's all kind of much of a muchness. And I'm not saying there should be an industry oversight, because who does that? Why do they do that? And what's it for? What I do think is there needs to be some sort of guidance for the electrical industry and where it's going. Like, you can't just have some people who have been establishment for the longest time, like the ECA and Unite, just dictating where the industry goes from now on. I don't think that's fair anymore. And in the way in which the industry is represented by Just Unite doesn't make any sense. You've got house bashers, you've got agency workers, people who aren't necessarily PAYE and on the cards, and they need representation as well. And just having some union. Let me tell you something about what I call union spastics. Right, I'm gonna
Very
upset people
PC.
now. Yeah, fuck them. It's gonna upset these union spastics now. Is the way in which they carry themselves. You ever go on a site and there's a geezer from Unite there? He's like a Unite. I can't remember what they're called, like a coordinator or something, or shop manager or some shit like that. Anyway, if one of them on site, they walk around, they don't do shit all day, bruv. Nothing. They walk around hand behind the back, walking up to people. You all right, mate? Do you need anything? Yeah, all right. And they just walk around. There's Sparks the same way. There's quite a famous story about they shut down a job up north somewhere because of the type of ham in a sandwich. They didn't want the type of ham in a sandwich, so the union shut the site until they got the right ham in the sandwich.
Was it
Now,
no frills, wafer thin, Tesco's budget range ham?
but it's just bollocks, isn't it? It was just that's just bollocks, isn't it?
It
Like, it's
is.
so dumb. Like, and no, I think that the problem is we've got no representation with any, but who are you representing to? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there has to be a summit and something agreed on, a new organization set up, like JRB, broaden the scope of the JRB, have a conference with different representatives from all over the industry, with the JRB putting in a legal framework and issuing the guidance to the industry. The I don't know, call it electrical industry 2035, and just like a 10-year plan on where the industry needs to be and why it needs to be there. That would be amazing. At least
That
people have got an idea.
yeah, that's sense, like something to work forwards to. There's a place in all of that. I think through voices being heard on social media, and I know we've been having some chats today, Sam, about ideas we've got doing some things where maybe people can have a voice alongside you and the podcast and what we're doing here up at the training space we've got. So maybe there's elements there where we can get an open mic podcast, maybe, I don't know, something along those lines, where maybe more of these opinions can be heard that maybe otherwise wouldn't be, because not everyone is on social media complaining at everything, causing a fuss, making a drama. They're just quietly getting on with things and sucking it up, but they've got opinions that the industry might like to hear.
Well, what about this? I'm going to say it now. Me and Mark, and it literally come about today, are thinking. What I was thinking, I haven't even spoke to Jamie about this. He might not want to do it. About putting on an event at Christmas, up near Christmas. We haven't got long to do it, but it's possible. Putting on like a small trade show slash um, a podcast live. So we have an audience. We do a podcast live, different guests, announcing some maybe winners and losers of the industry and for the year, and doing that live. I don't know. Let us know if it's something you'd like. Put in the comments. Let us know if it's something you like. Because I'd quite like to do that. And Mark's got the space. It's all the way up in boondog country, up north somewhere.
You cannot criticize anyone on where they live when you live where you do, which is as good as in bloody France, mate. You're like
Mate, you live
so
you
far
live
out the
in
way.
Norway.
Yeah, that's probably a fair example, actually. I'm in Norway or in France. Like,
You live in the Arctic Circle, bruv.
it is a long way. It is a long way up here, but yeah, we could definitely do something like that if Jamie's up for it, and
Yeah,
the audience want to get involved. Might not be interested, but I think it's a
yeah.
good shout.
and it could be like a 2 day event. Probably not. Might just be the one evening, like an afternoon and an evening with do a podcast live, have a bit of a trade show in the day, swap over to an evening where we put on a show in the evening. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. It's something we've discussed today. I ain't even spoke to Jamie about it. He's going to ring me up tomorrow and go, "What the fuck are you talking about, bruv?"
Well, that might get your phone ringing now.
No, no, prick. Right, but listen, Marco, as always, I really enjoyed getting you on. It's been a long, long time since it's just been a me and you,
It has, hasn't it? We should do one on A1 to One's channel as well soon.
mate. Any time when I've got time.
Yeah,
But
same.
no, it's been good. I enjoy these calm conversations sometimes about the industry because, like you say, there's not many places where you have the option to be able to have these sort of conversations um and be able to get the info out about the industry. This, like what I'm saying, the MVQ is rapidly going to become a problem for people who haven't got it. You're going to find yourself really struggling to continue as an electrician without it, and I don't want you to have to go and get it, but I think you're going to have to if you want to continue your career.
Yeah, I'd make you right on that, mate. And thanks for having me. I've enjoyed chatting with you as always. It's a good laugh, even if we've missed Jamie in the background saying swear words, getting upset,
Being a
shouting at
donut.
people.
Electricians podcast. We are out. Bit of luck. That went out live because I didn't press record.